It's a global pandemic. We are trucking through the apocalypse like we're in the back of an old Chevy with a rusted floor, a whole lot of weaponry, and maybe a handful of needles for vaccines for when they're available. That's right. Staring at Goats is going across this Mad Max level landscape with our orange sky and our green water and hoping for the best. It is Staring at Goats time. We're your hosts as we travel through this hellscape that is COVID-19. I am your host, Steven, joined as always by the amazing, the scientific, the one with the brain, the Jacob. And this week we are joined by one of the best guests that we have ever had on Staring at Goats. And that guest is one Kelly Lynn Colby, author extraordinaire, publisher, editor of the amazing Laundered, Two Dorks anthology, which you can give to charity by buying on Amazon right now. Kelly, how are you?
For 99 cents.
On sale for 99 cents.
Launder's on sale for 99 cents right now, the ebook. Get it now.
Because why, Kelly? Why is it on sale for 99 cents?
Why? Well, because Laundered is so amazing that it won second place in the short story category of the North Texas Book Festival. So, woo-hoo!
You want to know what that means? That
What's
means you an award-winning author. That's what you
That's
mean.
right.
That's what that means.
What that means. Mm-hmm.
That's what that means.
Right.
Congratulations.
Award-winning, baby.
Right.
I'm bona fide.
You bona fide. You got prospects.
You got it. You got it. That's right. That's right. Stephanie's never been happier to be married to me. Kelly, it is so good to have you on the show. We just have been tickled about it all week, thinking about you joining us from the great state of Texas. So, as always, we always start out the show with a little bit of a round table, find out how everybody's doing, find out who you are, what's up, what's COVID doing for you. So, I'm going to let you kick it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how's it going?
Hello. My name is Kelly Lynn Colby. I'm from all kinds of places because I'm a Navy brat. But right now I am just north of Houston, and I've lived here longer than anywhere else in my life. So I guess I am now officially a Houstonian and very proud of it.
Houstonian or Houstonite or what?
No,
is it
Houstonian.
Houstonian? Okay.
It's Houstonian. Yep.
It's very regal.
So.
Yes, it is. It does have a regal sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally my intention. Yeah, I didn't make that up. But that's what it is. So I'm so proud to be here, and I love it. And, being in Texas is a mixed bag. So a mixed bag is what we're experiencing right now. We have lots of, it depends on when you go places, how many people are wearing masks, right? And where you go. There was a huge rally in Austin. It was a boat rally for a certain presidential candidate. Big boat rally. And none of them, you just watch it. There were thousands of people there. None of them were wearing masks. And 4 the boat sank.
Oh, hey, that's a pretty good night by my account. If I could sink a boat, drink beer, and not wear a mask, that's a good night, Tater.
See, there you go. No one died though, so we're good. No one died. But yeah, so I live in that, and then I also live in the same state where people are paranoid to leave their house, right? So it's the same. Yeah, so we were brave this weekend because my daughter turned 17.
Woo.
Yes. Happy birthday.
Little one's not so little. So we actually went bowling.
Ooh.
So we went bowling. We had an appointment so we could have our own lanes reserved, right? There was between each party, there were 2 open lanes between each party so that we could stay within our party. You had to wear masks everywhere you were, except if you were drinking, right? If you were drinking or eating. Otherwise you had to wear masks. And so everyone wore masks, and because she had a party and we only had 8 kids there because we wanted to keep it as small, again, teenagers, as small as possible. And so we had 8 teenagers there, and they wore masks the whole time. So they said you didn't have to do it while you were bowling because you were with your family, and that counts as exercise. That means you don't have to wear your mask while you're exercising. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, I bowled and I could move the next day, so it wasn't exercise. But anyway, so you didn't have to. Mm-hmm. But because we had people there, I made them wear masks the entire time. So we kept as safe as we possibly could. So now, in 2 weeks, I'll tell you how good we did.
There it is. Now, here's a quick follow-up to that. When people are eating or drinking, they use that as an excuse, obviously, to take their mask off. But I've seen the people that like to take their mask off and leave it off and keep a drink in their hand for an hour. Did you see any of those? Or is that the kind of place that you're living in? Or are you living in a place that, actually abides by that kind of a rule or the spirit of that rule?
I am living in a place where both people are. And so in this place we were at is a more rural bowling alley. So there were a lot more people not wearing their mask while they were sitting down with their family unit. But we were definitely far enough apart. But quite frankly, I wasn't as worried about that as I am. That building is not a brand new building, and I'm sure there's no UV lights in the air conditioning. I'm actually more worried about the building itself.
Ah,
Like we actually ate before we went to the bowling alley at a place where we could be outside, right?
that
So we
makes
ate
sense.
outside, so everyone could be outside. We could have that. I'm more worried about that inside environment. So, and they start school this week, so she's about to be exposed to everyone in the universe, anyways.
Woo, doggy.
Yeah,
Now, is
yeah.
that
So
in person or is that remote?
she went in person. Again, she's 17, right? So it's for high school. I would say about a third of that high school, because I've been driving my son the whole 4 years, and now my daughter for 3. She's a junior now. So for 2, going on her 3rd. So I know what the traffic looks like. So based on the traffic, I'm going to say it's about a third are staying home.
Okay.
But they still, I mean, you can't socially distance. It's a high school.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
they're
I
wearing masks,
remember
but
I
go ahead.
remember pictures of Georgia, the high schools in
Mhm,
Georgia whenever they reopened, and there were just hallways crammed with people. And
mhm.
the girl who actually took the photograph and posted it on, I think it was social media, some Twitter or Instagram or one of the social media platforms,
Probably
um,
Snapchat. Yeah.
and maybe Snapchat. I can't remember what it was, but
Mhm,
the school actually suspended her because that actually violated their
mhm,
rules and their policies. So they were like,
mhm.
you can't take a picture. And she was like, I feel like this is need to know information. If your kids are going to a high school that are cramming their kids into the hallways like sardines, then I think you should know that. And they actually got the suspension reversed, I believe.
Reversed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we were keeping track of that too. But notice, here's the difference between that school and our school. If you notice in the hallway, there might have been 2, maybe 3 kids wearing a mask.
Yeah.
In our school, they're all wearing masks, every one of them.
Ah, that's good.
So at least you've
Now,
got that. You just see them. Like as soon as they get out their car, you watch them, even the ones driving themselves are walking out of their car, they've got their mask on.
Now, is that
So they're
mandatory or is that
mhm.
just a product of your local environment or microclimate that people are just like, "Ooh, they told us to wear masks. We going to do this thing."
A little of both, but it is required in the school. It
Okay.
is required. If you're going to go to school in person, you're wearing your mask.
Yeah.
So I laughed because they were like, we can't mandate this. We can't make kids wear masks. How are we going to do this? And I'm like, really? I have a daughter. You can tell me how long her shorts can be, but you can't make people wear masks? I don't think so. No,
I will say this about the
no.
mask is kind of a function. Like today we had a guy over looking at the yard for a drainage situation, and Stephanie and I were
Mhm.
outside in our masks, and Sam stayed inside. But he got kind of tired of being inside. When he came around the corner in the backyard, a little kid had his mask on. Um, and we didn't like, and we've just been kind of saying when we go places we wear masks. It hasn't been like we haven't been hammering it home or anything. But that little man ran around the corner with his little dinosaur backpack on, pretending to be something, and had his mask pulled over his face. I mean, we're modeling it. Modeling it is key
Right.
with kids of any age. It's like
Mhm,
let's make mask the symbol of we're kicking this COVID thing in the butt, not the
mhm.
oh we're weak and wimpy because we have a mask on. Let's make it like boxers wear boxing gloves, man. Let's treat it that way. But yeah, I found that
They've done good stuff.
yeah.
And they sell it because, like, especially these high school kids, they want to be in school. I mean, my daughter's in AP Physics, she's in AP Calculus, she's in things where she needs to be there. She needs to
Yeah.
be there to ask the teacher, "What am I doing?" So, and those kind of things. I know Og was with me. He was talking about that with his kids too. There's certain when you get to a certain level, they really need to have that interaction with the teacher if that's how they learn, so that
Mhm.
they can figure out what am I doing. And I will say though, they've modeled it really well, not just with. So what they are saying now is not protect your neighbor, which was good enough for me, but not for most people. It was like, do you want schools to stay open? Do you want this to happen? You want to keep coming to school? Wear your mask. And that kind of sunk in, I think, more for the
So
teenagers.
that's actually a little sad though, because if you can't rely on your neighbor to actually help you out and facilitate the end potentially of this pandemic, but you
Mhm.
can if you just say, "You want to go to school? Do you want your kids to be out of the house?" they wear a mask.
Yeah.
Because if you want that built-in babysitter, you better wear that damn mask. And
Yeah.
that says a lot about our
Yeah.
society, where we're at.
Well, there's different groups of people. We actually talked about that the other day with our best friends. And
Mhm.
so when we were talking with them and like, older generations and some other people we know, that we know people on all ends of the spectrum, which I know talking to you too, you do as well,
Mhm.
right? We know people on all ends of this argument. And people we love on the opposite end of the argument than we're on, right?
Mhm.
People we love. And so we talked about that. And the people that we know that are more like, don't make me wear my mask. Even though we said, yes, it doesn't protect me. We're like, yeah, it doesn't. It protects your neighbor. It doesn't protect you. And then so what we realized, and these are the same people who, like, if like Kevin had recently lost his job, he's good now. He found another one. He's fine. But when he did, these are people we could have moved in with them. That's how much they would have taken care of us, right? So these are wonderful, loving people. Give you their shirt if you are in their circle.
Yeah.
If you're not in their circle, they don't really count. And
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person, which I know y'all are too, where if you're a human being, you are in my circle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're seeing. It's not our society at large. We're seeing that big division. The division who thinks humanity is my people, and the division who thinks these particular people that I have chosen or was born into as family, these are my people.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at.
Do you think that's a product of how you were raised, or do you think that's a product of the people that you are around?
All of the above.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So obviously the way you're raised has the first influence. But I always say, like, I had great parents. But they were military, and we didn't have a lot of money. They worked, both of them worked full-time jobs. I always thought my sister called me mom for a little while, right? So she's 6 years younger than I am. So they worked. They were always working, did the best they could. And I was also partially raised by the TV.
Mhm.
So I was raised by like Star Trek, Next Generation, or not, well, Next Generation also, but the original TOS, right?
Ah.
And so I was raised by, the A-Team. I was raised by these shows that were all about these groups of people, being heroes for the whole world.
Yeah.
So that also helped influence me. Like you talk about Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, right? I mean, I've got their stuff over here on my shelf, and I don't have a lot on my shelf. These are special things on my shelf.
Mhm.
And that helped raise me too. And what are they? They're a group of small heroes, misfits, who get together and save the world. So that also helped form me. So I personally think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
So if you're
So
only around your family, you're not exposed to anything else, then that's all you have.
yeah. Well, altruism is a huge thing for you. I mean, I know
It
that
is.
just based on knowing you and knowing Kevin and knowing your family. That's
Mhm.
something you guys do. That's
Yep.
your weekends, is you're
Mhm.
gonna find somebody to pitch in and help.
It's in your
How's
DNA
that?
for sure.
Yeah, it's
It is.
100%. It's in all of your DNA. You and Kevin and your whole family. The question I
Mhm.
have is, how has that changed? Because COVID has definitely brought challenges to altruist or to charities and other communities. So how is your volunteering, really, for lack of better word, changed since COVID has really put us on more of a lockdown?
Stuff hasn't even restarted yet.
Mm.
So when you talk about, like, one of the things we volunteer for are Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. That is really hard to do virtually.
Yeah,
Really,
that's a good point.
really hard. They're doing the best they can, but that's a tough one. And like when you go camping, the children need to do everything on their own. Well, there's not going to be any social distancing. And these are children from all over the place. They're not within your local family. So how is that going to work, right? So that one hasn't restarted yet. So what we've been doing for that is like training and doing all kinds of things. So what we've had to do is, because we do have this innate, we have to help kind of thing. And so what I did is, like, I signed up to be a poll worker. So
Mm.
there's a huge shortage in poll workers right now, because a lot of the poll workers, they're retired people, right?
Yeah,
Because they have the freedom to be able to go do it. Well, they're at huge risk right now with COVID. So because I'm an editor and a writer and I can make my own schedule, I went ahead and signed up as a poll worker so that I could help fill in that gap.
Yeah.
So turns out, though, that's not voluntary. They pay you. Who knew?
I didn't know that. Do they really?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's pretty
pay.
rad.
So I guess that doesn't count as altruism, but I thought it was
Yeah.
when I was signing up for the record. Just right.
And then you
Oh,
get
no.
credit for that. Yeah, you get
That
credit.
is a checkbox for you.
Yeah.
I will make sure that happens.
Tater, I got us an
So
idea.
we've
We
had
can
to
make
be
some
more
extra
creative.
money. Now that
Hey,
we know
let's go to every single county and sign up to be a pollster. We only need to show up to one, but we'll get paid for all of them.
I'll just fill the cooler with Miller Lite. We'll sit there, take votes. Ain't nothing but a thing, man. We got this.
That's right. And we get to chat with everybody that walks in. That's gonna be fun. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, it's gonna be fun. No, what do you miss most about your pre-COVID life?
Writing in a cafe, and you're going to get that from a lot of writers. I miss writing out of the house with my ADHD brain, and I know y'all can relate to this. One's married to one, and one probably is one. Yeah. So with the ADHD brain, it's hard for me to be in the same spot and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I would have to go somewhere else to get that creativity flowing. Even if I knew what I was going to write, I always know what I'm going to write. I've never had writer's block, but being able to focus is a whole nother thing. So I actually need that little bit of noise from people talking. I actually need that. And even when things opened up, I didn't want to go because, first of all, it's frivolous, right? We're trying not to go out for frivolous reasons, except birthday party, but it wasn't frivolous. It was important.
No, that's important.
I agree.
Heck, it was the first
17-year-old
time.
girl, shit, yeah, that's important.
And she still wants to be with her parents. I mean, let's accept this. And so this is a goal. And then once I felt a little safer, like, it was a little better. They had real, good precautions down. I could go to Starbucks and sit outside, right? So I was thinking this is good, but then I didn't want to take up their spots because they have limited amount of seating that they have now, and they have to turn these tables to actually make money. So even once it opened, now again, we're talking the guilt, right? That all humankind are my people. I didn't want these poor people. Before I didn't care, and I give them a good tip, and they have plenty of tables. I'm not taking up a spot, right? There's plenty of them. When you have limited spots, now I am. So now I feel like I'm wasting their time, and they need to earn a living, and so I still haven't gone out. So I will tell you, I have a modestly big house, and I've been in every single room in this house to write. Like, I even have an exercise ball now, so I can just take that wherever I go, so I can sit down and write somewhere else. So that's been the biggest change for me personally.
What about professionally? I know that you do a lot of writing, obviously. You do a lot of editing. You do a lot of in your publishing with your new publishing company, Cursed Dragon Ship. If you guys want to check that out, Cursed Dragon Ship. Anyway, what has changed professionally? What have you noticed as a trend professionally in your profession that is really just completely different now that COVID's hit?
There's no conventions.
Oh, conventions.
Like we just went through Dragon Con. There's no convention. We sell a lot of books at conventions, and there's none. I mean, they're canceled all the way through the spring of next year. So we're kind of hurting, and there's a lot of. Luckily we are brand new, so we weren't depending on that income yet. But we were looking forward to it next year, right? Because we're like going in debt at this point, right? Because you have to have so many books out before you really start to make money. Yeah. But the first one winning an award is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Right? But so this is something we were planning on and planning to do, and we had tickets, and we knew where we were going, and we had things planned. And quite frankly, part of the reason Zepho was so excited for me to be a writer is because it gave us an excuse to go to more conventions. Yeah. So like that was part of his sacrifice so that I could write, so that we could do this. Sure. And that to my industry as a whole, for the small, micro press at this point, that's the biggest to us. And when it comes to the big publishing as a whole, it's none of the stores being open.
Yeah. Have you figured any way around that specific convention problem? Because I fully see it. I've been to several conventions, especially last year at Dragon Con. I mean, there were people just giving away books. They just wanted people to get books in their hands, and that was an opportunity for people, publishers, writers, everybody, just to get books in people's hands. Have you guys figured out anything to try to combat that yet, or is this still just kind of a work in progress?
There's we've been using Twitch, so Cursed Dragon Ship has. For our book launches and that kind of thing. And actually, I thought because we have a couple books going into audio, so I think we're going to launch those on Twitch as well. But we're still training people to use Twitch, as you know, right? You're part of the thing, training people. There's not just games on Twitch. There are a bazillion things on Twitch, but people still are not quite on board. So we're trying to train them. So we're hoping that we're the first on that will be able to do that, because quite frankly, people, when it comes to small presses like us, people don't actually buy books, they buy writers. So you need to actually be there. You need to, say, hello, this is my name, this is my work. Oh, I like to cook too, right? So that you get along. You're like, dude, you're a lot like me. I would probably like what you write.
Yeah.
So trying to get that connection has been extremely difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine you learn a lot about like voice and stuff when you're actually watching people, like how their brain works. Like the writer, you could say his name. What's the dude that you just got this blog poster hilarious? That you Kevin Petway?
Kevin Petway?
Yes. Dude's amazing in his writing and amazing in the interviews and stuff. Like so I imagine that would help, that you create that relationship between the viewer on Twitch and him, and then they're just like, I'm gonna buy that person's books. And that's with anybody. You're just I mean, there's once you read an author that you like, you just see their name and you pick it up.
Exactly.
So
and if I could get Kevin Petway, man, if I can get Kevin Petway in front of an audience, oh my gosh, he's finally gonna find that, because he's amazing. And see him talking, you can hear his voice when you read his books. So like you've really, so if you like him, you're gonna love his books. So but I can't get him in front of an audience right now. So.
But this is like,
here's to the next convention.
It's the new window shopping to some degree. Like, it's one of the things I love about bookstores when they're open is some of the authors I love, I discovered from just browsing the sci-fi aisle and seeing a really rad cover. Joe Abercrombie's one of those. I saw the cover of The Blade itself. I was like, this book looks freaking cool. Read a couple pages with it, sounds pretty cool, and picked it up. But you've lost that first touch window shopper connection. Because Amazon, you can't browse on Amazon. You kind of can type things in, but you're never gonna find that thing. It's not like going through a library or a bookstore. And I think that you're taking an interesting route to filling that void is using that creative channel on Twitch to get that out there. That's really impressive. Very cool strategy. I like it. I hope it pays off, Cotton.
You can thank Zapho. That's his baby right there. So.
Well, you're the rock star. Let's not get too excited about Zapho.
Zapho, I love you, but no, you're playing second fiddle in this orchestra, buddy.
You just
I'm
keep
in the front of the
brewing beer.
camera. He's the one behind. He's the one behind the camera. You have to have both people.
You're right.
Yeah. I'm not. Look, I love Zapho to death. You know that. So speaking of cooking, you brought up cooking. What is the best thing you have cooked during this pandemic?
Oh my gosh, I cook a lot. Kevin cooks a lot too. How about I just tell you what we cook for dinner tonight? So I grew up, again, I grew up with pork chops, shake and bake, right? Y'all do shake and bake? Come on,
shake and bake.
Shake and bake, baby.
Shake and bake, right?
Shake and
So
bake.
shake and bake. Well, I'm like, okay, I don't need you to shake and bake. Right?
First you shake it,
so
then you bake it.
Then you bake it. So I was like, I could do, how hard can this be? It can't be that hard. I had pico breadcrumbs, got a little flour, put a lot of paprika in it. It's red, right? Surely there's paprika. So I put put a whole bunch of stuff in it, some, dried mustard. And then I just fried it in some bacon fat, because bacon fat.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, they were so good. They were so good. So it was like this comfort food that I just, again, when you start to cook, you start to learn these little tricks, right? I'm like, panko and flour. Come on, what else do I need? And so they were delicious. And then twice baked potatoes. So, bacon, cheddar cheese, sour cream, green onions. What else did I put in there? Butter. And I got smart this time. Here, I got a trick for you. You ready? So I just baked the potatoes in the microwave because I'm cheap. I'm about to bake them again in the oven, right? So I just baked the first time in the microwave. So when I pull them out, cut them in half to take all the potato out of it, I dropped them. I forgot to take butter out to soften. So it wasn't going to melt very well. So I just popped it in the microwave. I'm like, I'll just melt it. It's going to melt in the oven anyways. I was in a hurry. It's before the show, right? I'm like, I got to get this done. I know I should have just had like macaroni and cheese before this, like out of a box, but no, I have to cook. So we threw in, I just melted it. So I had this melted butter. So I brushed the back of the potato skins with the melted butter and salted them. And then I turned them over and filled them with the goodness and baked them. Yeah. I'm not making them any other way ever again.
I'm moving to Houston. Houston, I'm coming your way, baby. I'm going to be Houstonian before you know it.
Houston, you about to have a problem.
I'm sure you're not the first one to have made that joke, but that was pretty funny.
Jacob,
right.
have you eaten yet? We are talking about. Okay, good.
I was able to throw a Caesar salad down my gullet, so I'm good.
Okay, good. I was worried about it for a minute.
Caesar salad, that's almost food. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you want to know what we've been doing with bacon grease? We've actually been cooking our
Yes.
sausage in bacon grease.
Like homemade sausage or like
Homemade-
breakfast sausage?
So just breakfast sausage. Just take your breakfast sausage, either your patties or your links, throw a little dollop of bacon grease in the pan, and just cook that bad boy right up. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Life is good.
My heart hurts just listening to this.
Speaking of beautiful things, I'll give folks an update on what I've been doing. So, beautiful things. I went to an apple orchard this week because what better to do in the fall than to go collect some apples and make apple butter, because my family would disown me if I did not make apple butter at least once a year. That stuff is pretty good. We went to go pick some apples, and I realized my comfort levels suck, guys. Like, they suck. And I got around people, and I'm like, I am uncomfortable. I'm just uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with people not wearing masks that are even near me, even within the remote vicinity of me, that aren't wearing masks. And, we could call it stereotyping. I definitely saw some folks that I'm like, I know you. I grew up with you. You're the one who's not wearing a mask because you want to make a point. And I saw a lot of that behavior, and I felt uncomfortable. The only time I actually felt comfortable was whenever I was in the orchard itself with just my people. That was the only time I actually felt comfortable. And then we moved away from the orchard and went back to the area because they had this big, nice, like, storefront. And we were like, oh, let's go get some apple cider slushies. And I'm like, yeah, let's go do that. And of course, I had tater tot. William was on my chest, and so I had a 5-month-old that I was carrying around, and we can't put a mask on him yet. And so I was struggling because I didn't want him around anyone that wasn't wearing a mask, not even close. If you're not wearing a mask and you see me and I have a kid on and you come near me, I'm sorry, but I'm putting you down. It's what I'm going to do. But I walked up to the entryway to the general store, and I looked in, and I saw just people on top of people, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just turned around and walked away. I'm like, I just can't do it. I looked at Steven because Steven was with me, and I said, Steven, I'm considering going to get my N95 because at this point, I really don't care. That's the level of and I don't want to be that way. I've never been that guy. I've never been the one who was like, something, we're probably overblowing this. I don't think we are. And I'm uncomfortable going out in public right now, and it sucks. Even going to the grocery store, I'm uncomfortable doing it. And we have professional athletes. I know I think it was Carrie Walsh or one of the volleyball players that came out the other day on Instagram and said how she felt brave by going into the store without a mask. And I mean, I understand what she's coming from. I do. I get it that she feels like we're letting our freedoms and whatnot slip away just one small step at a time. And I understand that mentality. But I'm not with her on this one. I can't be. And when you have sick family, when you have young kids, you have to be more protective. And it wasn't even that entered my mind. It was really just I felt uncomfortable with people around me. And that kind of scares me a little bit, especially knowing, where we're headed and some of the other things that are happening right now, because what will I be comfortable with? And maybe we'll deep dive into this a little bit later, but I'm really struggling. And then the other thing I did want to mention about what's going on with me, Steven, you got a problem tomorrow.
I got a problem.
You're going to be doing H&H live at 8:30 tomorrow night. And you finally have competition, sir.
What?
Football.
Oh.
NFL football is starting on NFL Network tomorrow night. Kansas City Chiefs are playing, brother. So
not worried about them.
Have some competition, sir, because we start football this weekend. I mean, technically it started last weekend, but really this is the first real big weekend for football.
I don't care about football. We've competed against football for 15 years. Screw football. Our audience, our demographic is not aimed at the same thing. And you know what? If you want to watch football, go watch football, because it'll increase our podcast numbers when you listen. And that's always good for us. So, live Twitch stuff, we don't really get to count very well. But that podcast number, when I go, hey, Audible, do you want to give us a sponsorship? They want to know those numbers. Not that I want an Audible sponsorship, because I don't want to interrupt our hilarity with, thank you for choosing Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Get a free book on Audible. Gold membership.
Yeah, don't
2 months.
do that. That would
2 books a month.
wreck the flow.
Right?
Wreck the
Stupid. Ads are dumb, and I don't support them.
How you doing, Steven?
Oh man, I am doing similar to you are doing. That's not a sentence. I'm doing as you are doing. So Jacob kind of stole my thunder by talking about the apple orchard, because we went together. Shocker, we do everything together. And he's 100% right. It was real annoying being at the apple orchard, and I'm not going to reiterate his story, but I did go in the barn. I braved the barn. Stephanie and I went in there to get the slushies, but we stayed clear of people as we were in there. But what I did find, looking across the way, is an idiot, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, who decided to walk up to the clerk to talk about what she wanted to order, pull her mask down under her chin, and say, yeah, I need to get 4 slushies. And I'm like, what? You are now spitting in the direction of the person in front of you without a mask on. Like, put the mask up. They can understand you. It's not that big a deal. I was so angry. And her husband or boyfriend or whatever he was with her didn't have a mask on at all for the first couple minutes. Because he's like, I'm outside, because it was like a barn. So there's like a back door and a front door and a fan blowing air through. So it's outside-ish, but you're still under a roof. You're still around people. You're still breathing. Put your flipping mask on, big moron. And because we live in the South, everybody's all like, oh, I don't want to tell them. It might hurt their feelings if I tell them they got to put a mask on. Now, also, they might have a gun or a knife and freaking stab you for telling them to put a mask on. So I fear for the people who have to enforce these rules. They're just apple orchard employees. They don't, what? Yeah, that was infuriating. So we got our 5 little apple slushies and made our way out of there, and they were tasty. And I got Jacob a handful of green apple taffy. So
Steven,
it was
that
worth
saltwater taffy. Yeah, that was good. No, yeah. So really, let's talk about this real quick, because I do have questions. We've got a group of people that do pull down their masks and put it either under their chin or just right here on this little thing, or rest it on their chin. What do you think the motivation behind that is? Is it just to say, I'm wearing a mask, screw you? Or is it because they don't know any better? Or is it because it just gets hot and they're like, I'm done with this? What do you think it is?
I think it's communicating, just like Steven said. So they think that they have to pull it down so that they can communicate clearly. So you'll see a lot of them. Yeah, I know. See, I write for a living. I don't talk for a living. Okay. I should pull my mask down so y'all can hear me. Hold on.
Oh, that's
so I think, and if you'll notice, a lot of the people that do it, they tend to have trouble hearing too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch them, I think a lot of people are doing that because they think, I can't hear you, hence you can't hear me, so I'm going to lower my mask. And they forget, like, if you want 4 slushies, you could also just go like this. And that would be great. And you don't need a mask for it at all. Like, So that's my personal opinion. And I also think people start to do it when they start feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
So they feel comfortable where they are, and they forget, oh, wait, I forgot we're in this pandemic. I need to pull this back up. Does that make sense? So I think it's those 2 things going on at the same time. Well, I like to prefer they're not just assholes, because if they were assholes, am I allowed to curse? I'm allowed to curse, right?
You're allowed.
Then, okay, good.
Try no F-bombs, though. That's the only.
Yeah,
do we have that rule? I feel like
tier 1 and 2 is good. Tier 3,
Yeah, it's good. Siri yelled at me for that earlier, but that's okay. That's a story for another time. I never use those words. I am an ex-sailor, I was in the Navy. I'm allowed. I've earned it. But the assholes don't wear them at all. Do you see what I mean? They're not the ones lowering them. So I think it's other reasons for that. And then they forget they're there.
Yeah. There's also the leveling of risk, like they're outside. So like at this place, they're like, we're outside. And to them, like outside, no matter how close you are to people, is fair game. Because some people get that in their head or have heard that like in passing or from the news, like outside is safer. It's not necessarily don't wear a mask. It's just that it's safer. Like today, we had a guy over to look at a drainage situation in our backyard. Our yard is eroding out. We're like, come look at it. Tell us like where we could add some French drains or whatever to try and control the water a little bit better. Guy shows up, no mask. He's a guy that works outside, meets people all the time. So we stayed our 6 feet away from him or more. I think we stayed greater than 6 feet away and had our masks on. We were like, I ain't playing. Like, I appreciate you came to look at our backyard, but whatever. But his job is outside. He's always outside. So he probably didn't even consider, like, I'm going to be outside talking to people. It's not really a need or concern. But, like, that bothered me. But he, we're also plenty far away from him. I didn't get close to him. I didn't shake his hand, which is another thing I wanted to make a point of. This is awkward, not shaking hands with people. It's really weird. Like, you're like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to shake your, I don't want you to be close to me. And like when you're saying bye, like, thanks for coming and taking a look, and you just do one of these. See you later,
I
man.
dare you next time to go,
I couldn't spit in my hand. I had my mask on. Yeah, I was behaving. Just like even my little man had a mask on. This dude's the only one hanging out in the backyard with with no mask. I get it. Like we've talked about, you're outside, and it's a time. There's like that equation they kind of gave you. That's like time plus space plus whatever, as that lengthens.
Whoa! You're asking people to do math now? No math.
Rudimentary math, Stephen level math.
Stopped listening.
Yeah.
No math.
But there's that. It's just like that's the whole way the wedding treated it. Like, we're gonna space people out. It's a big room. They're only going to be there for an hour. So there's all these justifications that get made and thoughts that get pulled in on what is safe and what's crazy. And I don't know, but yeah, I'm with Jacob. It's really annoying to have been a jovial social individual and have to pull back a lot on that closeness. Like I was one to shake hands, introduce myself, say, hey, let's go look at this thing, stand within a certain bubble area, just because that's what you do when you're engaged in conversation with somebody. We're not talking about like holding them by the wrist like some cultures. Like, I'm not letting you get away while I talk to you in the face. It's but within a certain distance that's a little bit closer than we have been. And I will say that the people at the apple orchard, we did have at least one other person that had a little small child that as soon as we said we wanted to be on the smallest tractor for the hayride, like, she was like, I want to go wherever they go, because she had her mask on. Her kid had a mask on. Like, she was clearly scoping things out as well. And we were setting ourselves into castes. There was the casts of mask wearing, social distance people who noticed, like, those people understand, and you can almost see like an aura, like, those people kind of get it, but I don't really trust them, and then those people don't get it at all. And so you're like judging these groups, and she judged us and went, those people get it. And I looked at her and said, she gets it. She can get on our trailer with us on the hayride, because she's going to sit far away. She's not going to talk to us. She's just there desperately trying to help her daughter have an outdoor activity.
Yep. And she did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? One of the other things I'm struggling with is I recently had a coworker move from Minnesota down to North Carolina, and in traditional Southern style, I would be the first one to reach out and say, let me take you out for a beer. Let me bring my family over. We can go have dinner together. Let's welcome you to this area. Let's go brew a beer together. Let's go do something together, just so that you'll have some interaction with folks here. And I haven't been able to do that. And I looked at him today because he's a coworker, and I said, man, I am so sorry. I feel like a complete butthole. And he was like, no, I fully appreciate it. And I get it. He understands.
Yep.
But it's not who I am as a person. And so I don't feel like I'm the same individual today that I was back in March. Whenever this person would have showed up, I would have been the first one in a bar welcoming him to North Carolina and say, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. Let me go get my family. Let's do the thing. And today I just don't do it.
Do you think you'll get it back?
God, I hope so, because that is me. It would really suck if I lose that part.
Yeah, I think I consider that a lot, whether we get it back. And we'll talk about that a little bit in our deep dive. But we do need to move on to some of these stories, or we'll never reach the deep dive before everybody's gone to bed and turned the podcast off. So let's do a little bit of this. Let's get to the isolation report. Scammers have stolen over $130 million in coronavirus-related schemes. Over 100,000 Americans have collectively reported roughly $132 million in fraud losses from scams related to coronavirus and government stimulus checks since March, according to the FTC. Coronavirus-related fraud complaints peaked in May when the IRS began sending its first round of stimulus checks. Scammers around the world know the government is flooding the American economy with cash, and some are taking advantage of health-related fears and the wave of home shoppers to divert chunks of money. Wave of home shopper here, raising hand. Scams commonly offer coronavirus vaccines, cures, air filters, and tests on fake websites, while others operate through fabricated coronavirus-related charities and fake, quote, persons in need schemes, which scammers pose as family. We all know that one. Like, Grandpa, I'm at the doctor and they said I need a new kidney. And he's like, where do I wire the money? It is often the case that following reports of a health scare, deceptive advertising or marketing touting miracle cures quickly emerge. The COVID-19 pandemic has put this cause and effect scenario into overdrive. Not to mention that your government's also been touting bleach, light bulbs, and hydroxychloroquine as stuff. The Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency warned on August 12th that it was tracking a malicious cyber actor who was spoofing the Small Business Administration COVID-19 loan relief webpage via phishing emails. Coming after you, baby. Better watch out. Put your guard up.
God, these are some buttholes, man. If you go after... There's a special place in hell for you. Yeah,
that's right.
It really is. I just don't get it. Hunting and fishing supplies experience COVID shortage. John Barker, CEO of Sportsman Warehouse, has noticed phases of hunting and fishing equipment demand throughout COVID. It starts with the run on ammunition and guns. It's moved to survival gear and generators and such. Then, as the apocalypse didn't happen, they've moved to recreational demands like fishing gear and camping stuff. So there is a run on camping equipment. So if you want to go get a tent, don't go now.
Don't try.
Some of the biggest contributors to the demand seem to be either first-time sportsmen or folks getting back into it after not doing it for a while. Phrases like, I haven't fished since I was a kid, and I'd like to get back into that fly fishing thing have been commonly heard by people picking up gear. Though some states closed.
That's quickly followed by, how do I get this hook out of my thumb?
Or right. Followed by, hey, I thought these chairs had a place for your beer. I didn't realize that they didn't have it.
Where's that cup
holder? That happens as soon as they get there. That's right.
But anyway, yeah, the rest of the article continues about where it's been happening and social distance activity. But bottom line is, people are starting to get into it. They're starting to nostalgia is taking over in some cases. So it's very cool.
Very cool. I think it's my turn. All right. AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine study put on hold due to suspected adverse reaction in participant in the UK. Drug giant AstraZeneca said Tuesday it had paused global trials of its coronavirus vaccine because of an unexplained illness in one of the volunteers. Which, by the way, thank you that they didn't tell us what that illness was, because if they did, that's all people would ever think about this vaccine, and they would never listen to it again. So thank you. Shh, no, hush, don't even say. I know something was mentioned in the Senate, and they need to shut their mouth. All right. As part of the ongoing randomized controlled global trials of the Oxford coronavirus vaccine, our standard review process triggered a pause to vaccination to allow review of safety data, the company said. By the way, your notes are way better than mine. I have notes. NIH Director Dr. Francis Collins told a Senate hearing Wednesday that it's a standard precaution in vaccine trials meant to ensure experimental vaccines don't cause serious reactions among participants, which, by the way, it is. This is standard. It's just nobody has ever, the general public hasn't ever seen this process. But this is how it works. This is how we try to keep you safe. We can't guarantee everything because, living organism. But we try. By we, I mean, for those who don't know, my I do have a Bachelor of Science in Biology. So with microbiology was my concentration, minor in environmental science. So I'm not a virologist, but I'm not ignorant to all of this. To have a clinical hold, as has been placed on AstraZeneca as of yesterday because of a single serious adverse event, is not at all unprecedented. You also have to remember, is they do not know if that participant received the placebo or whether that participant received the vaccine, right? They don't know. That's called a double-blind study. They do that on purpose. So they don't even know whatever happened, could have happened, was going to happen, even if he was never on this. The company is testing its vaccine called the Oxford vaccine because it was developed with Britain's University of Oxford. So that's where the researchers were, right? AstraZeneca is the manufacturer. In the United States, as well as the UK, Latin America, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Actually, I heard it was the UK, America, and Brazil. So I guess it was more places, but that's what I heard.
So it's interesting that you did bring up that point, because I'm gonna quick add a little bit of context. That is how some random adverse events, or this may cause, come up in some of the labels that you hear for, like, I don't know, any drug you name. If it's, oh, I take this pill for headache medicine, but it may cause butt warts.
Anal
That's the
leakage,
reason.
Ted.
Yeah, anal leakage. Because if in a trial one person had anal leakage and was taking aspirin for the trial, they have to claim that anal leakage could be a side effect of the aspirin, because they can't discern whether or not the anal leakage was because you just had an open butthole or if it was because the aspirin caused it.
It's
Especially
often a
careful
rare
on Saturday
condition.
night.
Yeah, open butthole syndrome is a real thing. When you fart, it just goes.
Because I'll tell you, Are you speaking from experience, Stephen?
Just letting you know, it's the way it goes. It's just a wind in the breeze.
I'll tell you, when it comes to side effects, and thank you for clarifying, Jacob, so I think that's something that they don't understand. By the way, the gentleman did not die. We know that, but we don't know anything else yet. What we do know is that the general side effects for phase 1 and 2 were fever, headache, muscle pain, and injection site reaction. And I always laugh at that one because, I mean, I have an injection site reaction right here from the mosquito that bit me earlier. So, I mean, you get those. I don't understand why they write that on there, but whatever. So, and those kind of things, that could be anything. They could have a headache because they didn't drink enough water that day. You know, they don't know for sure, which is why we're so careful when they do these studies. So when everyone's like, we need one very fast, believe me, we don't want one very fast. Let them do their job.
Yeah, it's basically flu shot level kind of stuff. Your body's going to have an immune response. How severe of that immune response and what that results in is, up for debate. I've heard people be like, I got the flu when I got a flu shot. You didn't get the flu when you got the, calm down. It's a dead virus, you crazy person. But yeah, Jacob, take a breath. I know. I
had it drives me batty too.
I can't handle it.
I had somebody who said they had the flu and then they got over it, so everything was good, and then they brushed their teeth with the same toothbrush and got it again. I'm like, didn't, but they like threw away all their toothbrush. I'm like, no, you don't
It's so exhausting. It's exhausting. Just fighting.
It's exhausting.
Kelly, I got an idea for you. Okay. Throw your hands up.
I start to just not say anything. So they get a new toothbrush. It's fine. They probably needed one anyways.
I'm very glad that you promoted that your credentials. Like, I know that sometimes people are like, I don't want to buy my credentials, but it's really cool because it gives you a place that helps our listeners understand, like, we're not talking out our butts. I might be, but the two people above me on the screen know what they're talking about. I'm just here to ramble.
I've ever given my credentials. Do I have to?
You don't have to, but we always refer to you as a scientist.
I have a bachelor's degree in biology. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I have a graduate degree in chemistry, and I have a graduate degree in organic polymer chemistry.
I took a semester of film editing or digital media broadcasting and an AS in computer networking. I am not qualified to talk about any of this, but I am qualified to podcast and read.
I have a master's also. I just earned my master's.
You did?
Nice.
In publishing.
Right. I did. In publishing. So I do have that. So it doesn't help with this, but I do have a master's. I'm just not as impressive as Jacob.
I don't know about impressive, but I have been asked to speak and give a lecture at the NIH and the National Institute of Medicine.
That's so cool.
So there you go. It's been 24 episodes.
Steve and I will be there to comment. We'll be in our microphones in the back. And we'll record it and we'll just comment while you're speaking. It'll be so much fun.
It was years ago, back whenever I was actually smart and I was doing smart things. Now I'm just,
Now you're actually earning money, right? Because you do one or the other. That's your choice.
Ashley in the chat at least giving us props for she and I get the job done. Whatever that job is.
That's true.
We can set the table. That's one thing that's our job every week, every time we get together, because we don't know how to cook. Tenet scores $20 million in the biggest domestic opening since pandemic upended movie industry. Oh, $20 million is not a lot of money. After
It's
months
really
of
not.
delays, Christopher Nolan's Tenet finally landed in U.S. theaters over the weekend, cashing in more than $20 million in ticket sales, which that sentence alone belongs in like 1975. Because now $20 million is not a cashing in more than $20 million like it's a big thing. The spy
It's a
thriller,
colossal failure,
it's a
right? I mean, 20
colossal
million is like,
failure.
what happened?
This movie had a $200 million budget. They haven't even dented it, and they're internationally released right now. We're about to get to those dollars. The spy thriller inched closer to the $150 million globally, earning an estimated $78.3 million from foreign markets over the holiday weekend. This includes $30 million from China. Also crap! $30 million in freaking China. The domestic debut comes 1 week after Tenet opened internationally and marks the highest grossing opening weekend for a film in the U.S. since the pandemic began, and one of the first movies that just did it in reverse and released everywhere else before the U.S. Kind of weird. Tenet in pre-COVID times would have been expected to tally between $35 million and $55 million during its opening weekend, on par with other Nolan films like Interstellar and Inception. The $20 million is reflective of a 50% cap on attendance at theaters, and that only around 65% of cinemas have reopened to the public. I would have been shocked at a $60 million opening weekend for a Nolan movie. I don't know why that seems so low to me.
I feel like Tenet has been hyped. I was pumped about this movie.
Pumped.
Is it just me? But I was expecting one of his best openings, but maybe I was just wrong.
I was too. It is because of the Interstellar vibe, or not Interstellar, the Inception vibe that it gives off.
Yeah.
Inception was a critical success, a box office success, and I felt like this was that natural, this is that Nolan weird, I'm gonna warp your mind kind of thing that should have got our curiosity, brought us into the theaters, capped off our summer. I mean, I guess it was going to come out in July, so it would have been right in prime time, summertime, like The Dark Knight was. And it just, 20 million ain't a lot. They haven't even made back their budget, guys. Like, this is bad. I mean, I know Bill and Ted probably hasn't made a lot of money, but a 20 million total weekend for that, and that's a much, smaller jam. I just wish Nolan had, despite I believe in theaters as he does. You need movies to go to theaters for theaters to survive, for us to have the experience. But a dual release, home on demand for $20, and a theater ticket, that would have probably raked in more money and assured that the movie made what it needs to make. It eventually will, but I mean, studios love that big opening. They love it.
There's a lot.
Change.
Yeah, there's a lot more context in the article, but one of the things that the article actually brought up was this is a long race. This is going to be a marathon. COVID times, releasing movies in theaters is going to be a marathon. So I'm assuming that what they're trying to do is just put it out there, let it sit for the next 4 months in theaters or 5 months or however long, just to try to rake in the full amount of cash that they would have got in a 6 or an 8 week run. Steven, as a man who would go to a theater to see Tenet, which I know you would have pre-COVID, would you go see Tenet right now or in the next couple of months?
If you and I rented out the Alamo Draft House for the $150 premium, with a handful of other people we love, trust, and know, shoot, I'd go then. But I'm not going into a theater with strangers. I was just at an apple orchard. You want me to sit?
I know we couldn't handle it.
An air-treated place with people smacking on popcorn? No. I would rent an Alamo, yes. I would not go to an average everyday thing. That would be disappointing because I wanted to see it in IMAX. And Adam, yes, it's $100. For those curious, if you have an Alamo Draft House nearby, you can rent a theater at Alamo for $150 minimum, and then $150 in food. So it's $300 actually. But it's $150 bottom line. But the thing is,
I'd get 10 Royale with cheese, baby.
Right,
10
get up to
Royale
$150 in food, easy.
It's total per person.
That's total.
We could do that in beer.
Yeah, right. You get like 10 other people to do it. Like that's $30 a person. That's easy peasy. That's nothing.
Easy.
Yeah, we just need to find 10 people we trust, and we don't have that.
I know we've only got about 7 total, and 4 of them probably aren't going to go to the theater for this movie.
Right. But yeah, it's
COVID. We'll go ahead and move on now. COVID-19 antibodies last for at least 4 months after recovery. People may have antibodies for at least 4. Thank you for Mr. Repeat. After they get COVID, a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine suggests the study pulled from a massive data set from Iceland looking for the presence of antibodies in more than 30,000 blood samples. The samples came from 3 groups of people: those who were confirmed with COVID-19, those who were exposed to the virus but weren't necessarily infected, and those who had no known exposure. The research focused on a subset of 487 people who had had at least one antibody test, which allowed researchers to see whether antibody levels remained stable or faded over time. In this group, researchers found antibody levels increased in the first 2 months after diagnosis and remained stable for the next 2 months. There is no evidence of any slight decrease, said co-author Kari Stephenson.
Yes.
She also said that the study detected antibodies in a significant number of people who had been asymptomatic or were never tested for COVID. Not everybody develops antibodies after infection, the author wrote, suggesting that some people might have a weaker immune response to the virus. However, it is possible that those people had false positive diagnostic tests and were never sick in the first place. Very valid point. Very valid point.
That actually seems reasonable. The vaccine 4 months, like the flu season, usually we get a shot. I think it's like 4 to 6 months at last. We try to get ours at the beginning of October, so it stretches through the peak. If you get them too early in September, you can run the risk of running out of antibodies and being susceptible, towards the end of February. So we try to get it early October. But this isn't unexpected, I don't think. That it would last for a short time, and it would be the problem with this is it's not a seasonal bug like the flu, so you need it to last continually. So we're talking about every 4 months, people trying to get shots to keep this thing rolling.
I think if you came to me and said that antibodies would stick around 6 to 8 months and you would have to get a shot every year during the specific season, I would say, yeah, that tracks. If you came to me like we were originally thinking and saying it only lasts 2 to 3 months, I would go, oh shit, that poses a problem, because getting the public health system to wholesale change to 2 to 3 month vaccinations instead of once a year vaccinations is going to be a sea change, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to be difficult.
It's not the doctor's offices and hospitals you're worried about. It's the public health system and their giant horse needles they stick people with. That's what I worry about. My mom took me there for a hepatitis shot once, and they basically use a crazy straw, stick you with it.
It's like a telephone pole.
Compliance is always the problem. Talk to any medical doctor; they'll tell you that right now. Patient compliance. I am also guilty half the time of patient compliance. So, and I know what I'm doing, and I still don't do it right. So, yeah, patient compliance is a problem. All right, let's see. My last story is Moderna and Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine candidates require ultra-low temperatures. Oh, the vaccine requires ultra-low temperatures, raising questions about storage and distribution. This is a big issue. So I'm going to skip over your awesome notes, which, by the way, Jacob, if this is what you do for H&H every time, Stephen and Ash that's amazing.
We're forever indebted to producer Jacob.
This glips behind the scenes here. This is like magic over here. I feel like I'm like, it's incredible what you do, just for the record. So the Moderna, and now we talked about the Oxford one earlier, right? That is a adenovirus. So that's got a protein coat, and inside there's DNA, and that's what they're using for that one. It's pretty stable. This one, so the Moderna one and the Pfizer ones, they are mRNA. mRNA is wimpy, weak, wimpy. So like it's exposed to anything and it just falls apart. It's useless. So in order to store it, it has to be stored very, very cold. And by cold, so I looked up all the degrees, it has to be -4 degrees Fahrenheit up to -94 degrees Fahrenheit. So just to tell you, most places don't have these kind of cold freezers. No, they don't have that. Almost all the vaccines are pretty stable, either refrigerated or they're stable at room temperature.
The
So,
main places that have -80s, because -80 freezers are the ones that would really store this. The main places that would have those are main hospitals, main laboratories, main companies that might be able to help you with storage long term. But these other most health systems do not have that capability.
and even most hospitals didn't have them. So they have to be like a major, like a research hospital. They'll have it. So most places, like we're in Houston, big city, they've got some, right? But that's only down there. So in just being the ex-teacher also. So if you're saying, negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit, what does that mean? So let me compare. Bodies in a morgue, they're at 36 degrees Fahrenheit. So nowhere near negative 80, right? 36. Live liquid penicillin, which you can buy at your feed store. Who knew? That one, you just refrigerate it. So that's 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is a living thing, right? 40 degrees, no sweat. And then frozen vodka, I'm getting to the important stuff, right? You put vodka in your freezer, right? Because that's how you drink it, right? If you want to freeze vodka, it's negative 11 degrees Fahrenheit. So still nowhere near the negative 80. So to get all of these freezers and all of these places, that's a whole nother ball game if this is the vaccine that actually ends up working. Yeah, so there's more issues than just it only lasts 4 months. This is a difficult. That's why I was really rooting for the Oxford one. So when they had this setback, I was like,
well, think about it this way. There are a lot of community clinics that are going to have to be distributing this. There are local pharmacies, your Walgreens, your CVSs, et cetera, that are going to have to be distributing this. Those kind of places are going to have to be able to have access to this vaccine. And if they need to have infrastructure investment of a -80 freezer just to be able to do that, it's going to be impossible, especially for
it's
like community
unrealistic.
health centers.
Yeah.
It's
I did look it up, and it did say a lot of the frozen foods, a lot of the trucks, they do get down to negative 80. So that's what they transfer a lot of the foods into grocery stores. So what we'll probably see is the same thing we've seen with food distribution. So again, you were saying with, volunteering to give food out, right? There's a lot of people hungry right now, way more than normal. And so a lot of them, there's been like sites that would pop up, right? So, okay, we're going to give, free food. All you have to do is drive up. You don't have to prove anything. Just if you're hungry, come. And then we'll put food in your trunk, right? So they're popping up all over the place. I think that's what is going to happen with these. So just like the testing sites are popping up, somebody is going to fill up a freezer truck that should have ice cream and beer in it. So I'm very sorry. Okay, well, not beer, but ice cream in it. And then they're going to pull it to, we have HEB here. What do you have? Kroger? Kroger's pretty all the way our country, right? Everyone knows that. So some grocery store, they're going to pull up there, and you're going to have to go and get your vaccine there. Now, here's the problem. Every one of these vaccines, I haven't seen a one that's different. So you have to let me know, Jacob, if there is. They all require 2 shots.
Most of them do. Yeah.
And they are timed apart. So if you go to this grocery store and get your shot, and you have to be back in 3 weeks, is that grocery store going to have enough frozen stuff for the same people to get that? It's unrealistic to me. Again, this is a scientist who's like, I don't think this is the answer. It's unrealistic. They need to keep researching and keep working on it. This is not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
That's really
so there's a balance, right? There's a balance between getting a vaccine out to at least the majority of the public and doing what could actually help long-term from a public policy perspective. Where do you think we're going to ultimately end on that?
I think these kind of vaccines, if they get them to work, they need to go to all the healthcare professionals, and they need to go to the first responders, right? Policemen, firemen. I think these people, they need to get these. And we need to be patient and wait until they have something more stable.
Yeah, we're good at that.
That's my personal opinion. These first ones, they need to go out there because they're so difficult to do. Like I said, this refrigerate, all of this, it needs to go to them first. They're the ones that have their lives are more at risk for this. These are the ones doctors who aren't seeing their families because they're treating COVID patients, right? Those are the people that need to get the vaccines. That's my personal opinion. They're first. They're top of the line. They need to get them first.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yeah, I think Stephen made a very salient point over there. We're really good at that as Americans. Patience,
yeah. We've been exercising patience for years now. Yeah. We get everything we need within 2 milliseconds. Look, we won't wait for a YouTube video for 2. When's the last time you watched a YouTube video that had an intro that was like Joe's woodworking? You're like, nah, I'm gonna find a new video. because this is
fast forward.
Yeah, 30 seconds, 30
Skip
seconds, 30
15s.
seconds.
Skip 15s.
It's stupid. It's stupid. Nobody waits. Nobody waits.
I watch a new Netflix video and it has an actual like theme song. I'm like, what is this? The 80s.
My favorite show in the world is Breaking Bad because its intro is literally 10 seconds. It's like Breaking Bad, and you're watching the show.
Next.
Same way with Blacklist. Blacklist intro is like -1 second. Boom, Blacklist done.
We ain't got time for Cheers anymore. You know, like it gave us a great theme song, but people don't wait that long. Me and Sam were watching Sword in the Stone on Disney Plus, which he loved, by the way. It was one of my favorite Disney movies as a kid. But the intro, I forgot they used to put the credits at the front. So it's like, oh my goodness, Sam. Let me see. He goes, this is old. I'm like, it's fine. Let me just skip this. And he ended up like dying laughing at some parts that I didn't even remember being that funny. And he was like guffawing over it. It was the happiest. I was so happy. I'm like he likes this. He liked the fish.
He likes the fish scene, right?
He loved the fish, and he loved the wolf. There's a wolf at the beginning. It's hungry, and it's following them. And, like, it keeps getting knocked backwards as they're, like, walking away because it's hungry. And they get to the top of this mountain, and then they turn around, and the wolf comes up after them and realizes they've turned around. And he's, like, panting and and Sam fell off the couch. He thought that was so funny. I love kids' brains. It's amazing.
Me too.
We better get to a deep dive because it has been a show. We're in an hour, so we got things we wanted to talk about. And I wanted to pose to you guys a Facebook post I saw. Apologies, this Facebook doesn't matter. It's just somebody's thoughts about what does the end game actually look like? Because I don't know. You could take this as an ambiguous opinion. It was very done in such a way that if you're leaning towards we need to be safe for as long as possible, it jived with that, but it also kind of made you think, when is it going to be okay? Like, basically the idea was, what are we looking for? Are we looking for complete eradication of COVID-19? Are we looking for a certain parts per 100,000 of people are infected? Are we looking for a downward trend? At what point do the mandates ease or go away? At what point do we open the theaters? Because basically their idea was nobody's really talked about when opening is going to be okay, safe, normal. We can go back to what we're doing. Is there a normal? And are we going to stay in this state for a while, for years? And I thought it was pretty fascinating because I myself haven't really thought about that. I'm very much a live day-to-day kind of person. I have 2-week increments of my ability to foresee anything. And I've said 2 years because I know that's how long the 1918, like the pandemic, the intensity of it lasted. It still was felt in trickles, but again, that was a flu. That was a seasonal bug. We're talking about a yearly, year-round virus. And I was curious what you guys thought about that idea.
Well, I can rule one part out. We're not going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I will say that because we know other things besides humans carry it, right? We've had cats that have been positive for it, dogs that have been positive for it. We haven't seen any horses yet, and trust me, in my world, we've been looking. But no horses have been tested positive yet. But in other words, other animals carry it. If other animals can carry the same bug, we can't, especially a virus. I specifically mean a virus. We can't get rid of it. Like we got rid of smallpox because humans were the only carriers. So if we went out and immunized the herd immunity, right? We immunized enough percentage of the population, it can't spread anywhere. So the virus is then dead. Well, we can't do that with this. Also, it's an RNA virus, and RNA mutates quickly and unpredictably. I'm actually more surprised that we haven't seen more stuff about that. This one has been pretty stable. Sorry, Jacob, go ahead.
No. I was going to say we actually talked about this a little bit last week because there were multiple versions of this that has popped up in different regions. There was one person in China, or I think it was South Korea actually, that had been infected early on in the process, went to Spain, got reinfected 4 months later, and they actually showed that it was a different version of the virus. And that's how they could actually say, yes, you can indeed get infected more than once.
Gotcha. All right. So we can't get rid of it. So I can get rid of that one immediately. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So what, I mean, but what then do we wait on herd immunity, but we can't get herd immunity if we don't get exposed? So is it vaccine driven herd immunity? Like, how do you manage that? Like, I have a lot of, like, you regionally vaccine people at the same time, which could lead us into our next deep dive, but we'll stick here for a minute. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Regional vaccinations, that could potentially be a thing to look into. Um, Seasonal vaccinations obviously could be another thing to look into. Safety precautions could be another thing to look into. The other thing that I mean, I've stressed this a couple of times. I'm going to continue to keep stressing it. We need to do better ourselves. We need to try to build our own immune systems better. That means getting out and getting some vitamin D and getting some exercise and doing things that actually build your own personal immunity, and your immune system, such that you can be able to fight some of these viruses off. That is, I think, one of the things that we're struggling with right now, because we have such a sedentary lifestyle as Americans these days, that we just don't have the kind of strength in our immune system that maybe we once had. So that's another thing I feel like we could do a better job of messaging at, is actually taking some of these things into your own hands and internalizing them, and trying to improve your own person. I think everything is either stay at home or wear a mask or do something else. It's never about help by improving your own personal health. And heaven forbid we tell people to improve their own personal health. We just need to tell them, wear a mask and social distance. Which, by the way, you've heard me on the show, I 100% agree with. So
You can't
Well,
tell me how to eat. What's wrong with
that's
you?
right,
What
baby.
to
Give me
eat? You
my deep
can't
fried Oreos. I mean, they
can't make
canceled
me
our
take
fare,
care
for
of myself.
God's sake. Can't
Yeah.
believe you canceled my fare and
here
took
that's
my deep
delicious.
fried.
Here's
What?
my thing though. The thing I would say with COVID though is that COVID has not shown any. Usually when it is because we have wimpy immune systems, because we do compared to most of the world, most for not just us, first world countries have much wimpier immune systems because they haven't had as much to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, but like the first world countries, they have a much higher incident of things like rheumatoid arthritis, things like eczema, things like all of these immune diseases where your immune system is like, I don't have it, because the immune system's an army, right? So if it doesn't have anything to attack, it's like it gets confused over what is self. It's not ever supposed to attack self, and then it starts to attack self. Well, when you go to poorer countries, they're fighting other things all the time. They always have roundworm infections. They always have, like, there's always something they're fighting. So their immune system has something to fight. And they have very few instances of these kind of autoimmune diseases that are common in first world countries. But COVID has not shown any difference whatsoever, whether it's a first world country or a poor country. So I don't know that that's going to help with COVID.
Well, how about this? I believe that a stronger immune system will actually help, I think, recovery and long term. If you look at some of the data, some of the people with chronic conditions, diabetes, obesity, etc., they're the ones who are really struggling with this virus. You're not hearing of ton of research out there that's suggesting that it's random. Healthy subjects, obese subjects, they all behave the same. It's not. It's if you have some of these chronic conditions, you are going to have a more difficult time, actually preventing this or actually you're going to have a more difficult time getting over this, essentially, with
Recovery.
chronic conditions. Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that we all need to go out there and start doing push-ups. I am saying that there are things that we could do to try to help with chronic conditions like obesity or like diabetes, to try to get them under control, such that we may actually have a better chance of recovery.
And
Yeah, I
also
mean,
do push-ups.
yeah,
And
also do put food as medicine, man. It always has been. Ashley was a proponent of food as medicine for a million years, and we all are a bunch of naysayers. Like, whatever, man. That's good that you're doing that, but like, I mean, you can do numerous studies on like how different areas in their diets affect what kind of diseases they get. Like the Mediterranean, no heart disease, very little heart disease, because it's all olive oil stuff, cucumbers and junk. We just need to eat.
omega 3s, baby.
We need to eat gyros all the time, and we'll be in good shape. But yeah, there's just different. America, we have the crappiest diets of any human beings ever, and some of that's cultural. I mean, all of it's cultural, but like you got people eating breakfasts built for going out into the farm and working all day, and they're eating that same breakfast and going, well, time to play some Warcraft. I got 18 levels to get.
Or
working
time to
on the
go
computer.
sit at my desk and sit at my computer for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
Are you
software
saying I
developer. That's
shouldn't?
what we do.
I'm not supposed to eat a full English every morning? I'm confused. I don't.
You need to go get your eggs Benedict with your hollandaise sauce. Come on, Kelly.
So
That too. With
we
smoked
touched.
salmon instead of ham, though.
So what we don't
quick,
have.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple other places to go here.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because real quick, what I do think is going to change is those instant tests. That's going to actually be the first test, the 1st change, because we can start having events once those instant tests are working. So the one I saw, they talked about it on the Today Show this morning. It's 15 minutes and it's 86% accurate. So it's not awesome, but that's not so bad. It does not give false positives, but it will give false negatives, unfortunately. I'd rather be the other way around when it comes to an instant test. So 100%. We're not there yet, but if we can get those instant tests, we can start having events again. And I'm not talking Dragon Con size events, but I'm talking like we want to do writers retreats, right? We want to do, so doing those kind of things we can do once we have those. I think that is the first step to reaching a new normal.
Yeah.
So you could have like a wedding and stuff. You could go to a wedding and be like, we've got 30 tests. We've got 30 guests. Let's get them all tested, tell them go back to their cars. And then we'll come in and be like, hey, you're good. And everybody has a normal wedding.
Well, it also depends on the
tracing is going to be a lot easier too.
So
once you can do those instant tests, because it's, if you don't get your test back for 2 weeks, contact tracing at that point is about useless. Because anyone you did contact has now contacted 9,000 more people, and it just doesn't matter anymore. But if you could do the instant ones, then you can be a lot faster. We can at least get a hold of outbreaks faster. And I think if we can get a hold of outbreaks faster, we can go to a new normal.
And one of our listeners actually just got tested, and he still says it's going to be 3 days before he gets results. 3 days is forever.
Well, it depends. I mean, a lot of that's central lab. And I got to tell you, most of those tests are pretty quick in a central lab. They're probably using a 15-minute test and or a 1 to 2 hour test. The problem is that because they send them to a central lab, every other testing facility is also sending their samples to the central lab. So because it takes 15 minutes for 5,000 tests, it takes them 3 days to get to you. So yeah, they're probably using the same 15-minute test. It would just be a whole hell of a lot easier if it was actually point of care testing as opposed to central laboratory testing.
You want it to be like a pH strip you dip in a pool, and within like 10 seconds you've got your colors. You want to just like wipe something on somebody's tongue and be like, boom, these turned green, you're good. These turned red, you suck. But I know it doesn't work that way. But it would be.
I mean, this one turns blue.
It does.
Yeah, it does. This one turns blue. It works exactly like that.
It's kind of like a pregnancy test, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a certain level of hormone to actually activate that pregnancy test. The same way as with any of these tests. I mean, you have to be able to detect it at really low levels. And the lower the more sensitive your assay is, the better it is, because you can detect it at lower levels. So you can detect it earlier. You might even be asymptomatic and you still may be coming up positive just because they were able to catch it at such low levels. That's actually one of the things that I think could be improved on in the next series or next round of testing is really that sensitivity. The specificity is always important. But again, like Kelly said, I mean, the false negatives and false positives, sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. I think this most recent one's around 86%. And it was showing some false negatives, I believe. Which is bad. But I think if we could get the sensitivity as low as we could possibly get it and try to ramp up that specificity, it's going to be a little bit better. However, I got to tell you, right now, if you look at some of the tests out there, they're pretty flipping good for what we've asked them to do in this short period of time. To actually make bigger changes, it's going to take a lot of data and a lot of time to actually make small incremental changes. That's the problem with these kind of assays. You can make big changes quickly, but you can't make small changes quickly. Small changes take time, and that's a luxury that I just don't think we have.
Do you think, let's get weird Mark of the Beastie here. Like, do you think you're gonna be walking around at some point with like an approved flag of some kind on you saying like I've been tested, I'm good versus I'm I'm curious about what the social impact is. Like you go to a football game, how do you validate? Like is there some sort of way we're going to be doing that? Like, do people are people able to buy some sort of device? Or like, look, I licked this, and I put my sticker on. It's validated with a day and a scan. You can barcode scan it and validate that it's legit via some sort of tracking thing. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here when you integrate technology and the biochemical stuff, everything. Like we've got opportunities to go like this thing's connected to a Wi-Fi, connected to a central database. I lick it. It says this guy who licked it. I've got a fingerprint of his tongue and a sticker, and it prints out a barcode. And then everywhere I go, bing, bing, Minority Report. Like, psh, I'm in.
Can we
I'm
just
not
say
in.
you're a valid versus an invalid and just go straight up Gattaca? I mean, I'd like to
Yes.
go there.
I mean,
That's where we could go.
we're
But
at an infrastructure in big cities that's not an impossible thing to imagine.
I completely agree with you, and I think it's
easy
fun
to cheat.
Well,
Because
it's
I
too
could
easy.
just say, Jacob, lick this for me. Thanks.
Potentially,
it's too
but
easy
no,
to
they'd have
cheat.
to have more data on who you could have an iris scan. You could have your tongue print. It has to be your tongue print when they do the licking.
Blind. Do you really think we're gonna trust such a system?
I'm just saying it's better
hell,
than
we
nothing.
don't. Yeah, that's right. We don't even wear masks, much less trust a system like this. But no, I have a question for you. How long is that valid for, though? Because just because you tested it, the sensitivity is at a level where maybe on a Friday you were fine, weren't showing the levels of virus necessary to trigger that test, that positive test, and then on Sunday, by the end of the writers' retreat, all of a sudden you were swimming in it. Is that test?
24
I mean,
hours. 24 hours
right.
is that's what you have to like. Okay, so I watched a documentary from Michio, not documentary because that would make it real, but a forward-thinking special called 2052, back in 2007 or something, and they were talking about how connected your home will be come 2052. Most of that entire special from futurist Michio Kaku, who I really think is a great person to read.
I love him.
Right? He's great. But
Love
most of it was about insurance companies and how they're going to know what you're doing. They're going to know you got drunk because you're going to pee in your toilet and you're going to have alcohol in your system. And if you fall out your window, even though you feel like you're completely sober, they're not going to pay for it because your t-shirt said you fell out the window because your t-shirt had impact things on it. And it's like, oh, he fell out the window and urine, he had alcohol in his system today. Screw that guy. And that was kind of like where it was going. And it doesn't seem that unreasonable to me to say there's some sort of system either being thought of or already being worked out that could document who, what, where, when, and figure out who can go where. And then everybody's going to be in an uproar and say the freaking Antichrist is out there somewhere watching you do your business. I don't know, man. Look, this brain's full of weird stuff, and I could go on this all day.
Write them all down. I want the series. Send it to submissions at.
You got it. You got it. Writing the words is hard. The ideas are in here. The words are hard. No, but yeah.
Wait, can I tell you, Jacob, scientist to scientist, doesn't it make you just a little heartsick how fast they're being able to get all this done when you throw money at it?
No.
You know how much we could do if they would just give us the money we ask for?
Yes. However, I will counter that because I've actually been thinking about this. This is something that everybody's affected by. The world is moving in one direction. Yeah, sure. We could argue that some people are straying off and going off the reservation. That's fine. I don't care. But for the most part, I think most people are trying to do the things like finding the adequate testing platforms, finding the vaccines that can help, trying to figure out ways in which we can actually communicate better and actually facilitate interactions between people. I think for the most part, we're having this massive push toward that. The problem that I see with what you're suggesting is that there is so many things. There are so many things out there that deserve attention. There are so many pathways that we could go. For example, do we all push towards cancer next? Do we all push towards childhood diabetes? Do we all push towards heart disease? So we have to split our focus and split our attention to all these other things that require time, energy, effort, money, etc. And if we're all pushing on one direction at one time to try to make that happen, I completely agree. We could make some just massive changes to our societal infrastructure. I just don't think that there's everybody wants to try to find the next thing, and so they go look for the next cancer, or they go diagnostic, or cure, or whatever it may be. So it's hard to get this kind of a massive push or critical mass behind your research. I just don't think a lot of things are like that. I mean, hell, look what happened with ALS, whenever they did the ice bucket challenge.
It's
Massive amounts of
awesome.
research went into that. But that was only because all of a sudden you had this concerted effort. But what fell behind because ALS came to the forefront? A
Nothing.
lot of other
Like
things
you
fell
and me
behind.
sending them money.
Well,
Nothing.
maybe not. I don't know. I mean, because now all of a sudden you have ALS researchers getting NIH grants and NIH funding, and guess what? That's money that's now no longer available for maybe a cancer diagnostic or cancer research or diabetes research or some other thing that desperately deserves the attention. And I'm not saying ALS is not worthy. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that we're trying to make those justifications for the hierarchy that we've created, and with money, we all of a sudden push them up to the top, and now all of a sudden they're getting the grants. But what fell off the bottom because to make that happen? It's tough. This is a hard conversation to have because there are so many worthy causes out there that actually need the kind of funding that right now we're seeing with COVID.
Fair
But
assessment.
it's hard. I love your thought.
It's still frustrating.
It is frustrating as hell.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about this show is we can talk about things that drive us absolutely bonkers, but we don't really have a solution, and we know that the reality is that's just how it has to be, because it's I mean, there's no disease or ailment to humankind that's any less deserving of research and care than some other one. They're all when you're an individual suffering from it, or an individual suffering from it, it's the single most important thing to solve in the universe. And I think that's what researchers try to do. You hear of so many people finding breakthroughs as people that were connected in some way to some disease. I've read stories of people finding cures for all kinds of stuff, or finding treatments for stuff because either they were suffering from it and they had the background to solve it, or they had someone close to them who had the background to solve it. And they're like, this is now my life because you have this and I love you and I don't want you to deal with it anymore. And I'm going to find a way to fix it. I mean, that's just part of it.
Real quickly, I want to give a story about this because I met a guy several years ago, and his son was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. And I think his son was maybe 3 years old. He then immediately enrolled in a PhD program, got his PhD, immediately started doing research on diabetes and trying to cure type 1 diabetes. Immediately took his research from that university, spun it off into a company, and tried to create an artificial pancreas to help his son live a more normal life. Basically, a pancreas that you could wear on your hip, and it delivers insulin while monitoring blood glucose levels to try to, and it delivers glucagon as a recovery. I mean, the bottom line is the reason why this guy did all of that. He dropped his career, dropped everything what he did, enrolled in a PhD program, and immediately started doing research because his son got diagnosed with juvenile diabetes that day. And it forever changed his life. And he's going to be the one. You're right. He's going to be that guy. It's not going to be the person who's getting paid and leaves at 5 o'clock. It's going to be the guy that works until midnight because his son has juvenile diabetes and he wants a better life for that kid. That's who's going to fix it.
That's what happened in flight. I mean, it's not like we weren't researching how to get an airplane in the air. We had government agencies trying to figure out heavier than air machinery. But the Wright brothers who own a bicycle shop were like, we desperately want to solve this problem. We don't want to go home at 5. We're going to spend every waking hour we have hacking at this stupid airplane because we think it's possible. And that's the kind of people that make waves. It's not the people that are just cashing in a paycheck and going, well, I learned a little today. I drank some coffee and hung by the water cooler. These are people like freaking Elon Musk, as psycho as he is. He's got rockets that land back on Earth. That will never not amaze me.
Come on, guys.
Cool. I'd love to watch it.
I mean, it takes crazy people like that. That will never not be the coolest thing I ever see. I've watched multiple launches, and I'm still blown away every single time. But that's somebody who knew what they wanted, went out and studied and got the engineering, found the right people who could drag away from NASA and be like, we're going to make it rockets, and it's going to be great. And
we're going to catch them. That's what we're going to do.
We're going to make rockets, and we're going to catch them. And you know, people miss their child being born because he's a nutball, but you know, they got rockets, man, that we reuse. We've made space travel affordable. Anyway, we could go on about all this stuff for years, but we need, I guess what we're saying is we need the Tony Stark of COVID-19 who's just going to be like, let me tell you something, I'm going to solve it tomorrow. And I think we have some of those people out there.
He worked with bigger technology. It was easier. It's easier to work with not live things than live things.
Sure. Ones and zeros are much easier to deal with than like weird biological things with brains and stuff. Rudimentary little brains, but brains to some degree.
This is more a machine, I guess. It's not alive. So I don't know. It's complicated.
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
You are right, Stephen. You are 100% right.
Good job. Gold star to Stephen.
I know science. Right. So we're into the show quite a bit. We've been going about an hour and a half. How do you guys feel like covering the vaccine? Yeah, I figure Jacob's about baby time. He's got to go to sleep or he's going to die.
I've got a baby over there that I'm praying has been asleep since we started.
Yeah. So Kelly, let's.
Terrified, and y'all did a great job. I was totally comfortable the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a question for you.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I was comfortable the whole time.
We need predictions, and I've got to tell you, we've got school starting. Mm-hmm. We've got sporting events. Football starts this weekend. It starts tomorrow, really. And some fans are going to be in attendance. They're talking. I know the Indianapolis Colts are letting 25% of their fans come in and see their play. Mm-hmm. The sporting events are starting. Theaters are reopening. Gyms are reopening. All of the bars, it looks like, are going to start reopening soon. We've got things in motion to actually crank our economy back up and get back to some semblance of life as normal. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen in the next 3 months relative to COVID and what we see with the number of cases?
I don't know. This is the true scientist talking. I don't know. Because we have been in Houston, we've been open for a very long time. Mm-hmm. We've had our restaurants open for a long time. Theaters have opened a few weeks ago now. Gyms have been open since June. And we haven't had, we were like at the beginning of June, we were like a hot spot, right?
Oh,
but
yeah,
we kind of calmed down.
Like,
oh yeah, we were like crazy. We were like, we're not going to the grocery store, right? So I mean, it was crazy, but it like settled down. So I think what's gonna happen is what's happened is human beings have isolation fatigue, and the risk doesn't matter anymore. So even me, knowing the numbers, knowing what it is, I know this is not a hoax. I know what the real conditions are. I know what we're risking. I still did a birthday party for my daughter with 6 people outside of our tiny little circle. So who knows where they've been or what they've done, right? And we went to a public place, the bowling alley, right? So that is actually pretty high risk.
I would put that as a 6, maybe even bordering on a 7, Steve.
I was going to say 7. I was going to put it at a 7. Yeah.
So this is a pretty high risk thing, and we did it anyways. Why? Isolation fatigue. Mm-hmm. So, and we're educated on this. So you get all these other people, like you saw at the apple orchard, who are like, and I know people who have died of COVID. I know them. So it's not even that I'm distanced, right?
Yeah.
But we did it anyways. We were as safe as we possibly could be, and I think that's what the next thing is. The next thing is we are just going to be as safe as we possibly could be. That's it. Like we wear seatbelts when we get in the car, but we don't not drive downtown.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I mean? Things like that.
Do you
So
see your situation changing
in the next few weeks? No.
in
In
the
the
next
next
few
2 months?
Mhm.
No, not in the next few months. I think that's too soon. I think it'll be the same thing. Like, we're not going bowling every weekend, right? We're
Mhm.
like, okay, now let's keep it down. We did our risky thing. Now let's be careful. But again, like I said, my daughter's in school, so
Yeah.
we're not really being careful.
Well,
Yeah.
what about your kids? Do you think they share that same mentality of, yeah, let's try to do some quote unquote normal things, but make sure that we're as safe as humanly possible doing them? Do they
Yes.
share that same outlook, or are they more of a look? I just want to go have a beer with my buddies, not proverbial beer with my buddies.
Yeah. No, my kids are boring. Yeah, they wouldn't have beers with their buddies yet. But I mean, they're good. They're good kids, not boring. Sorry. The my full disclosure though, my son works at a grocery store.
hmm
Yeah.
I mean, there's no more
That's a
exposure
frontline
than that.
worker. Let's pause for a
Maybe we
moment,
should add
Stephen.
them. Yeah.
That is a frontline worker right
Yeah.
there. Cheers to Mr. I know his name, but I'm not going to say it on
Xander.
air. Yeah,
Xander. You can say
I
his
was
name,
going to say I
Xander.
didn't want, but yeah, cheers to Xander because
Yeah.
that's a hell of a job. I got to tell you, he's
That's
the
a
new
good
frontline
kid
worker.
right there. That's a good
Yeah.
kid, Xander.
He's a good kid. He
He
really
can play
is.
the guitar. He can
Mhm.
prop his feet up and enjoy conversation with a bunch of old folks. He's
Yeah,
a cool kid.
he's a good
He
kid.
can grow a full beard and he's only 19. Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
Well done.
He-
Well done.
So I think nothing's really going to change for us big time. We're just going to keep doing that, just being as cautious as we can. I will tell you though, because my daughter does horse competitions. So we're doing the distancing. When you're on the horse, you're as far away from anyone as you can be, and all the other stuff. They're being as safe as they can, wearing masks, limiting like only family can come. We can't have outside spectators, all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to the horse competitions. But the last one we went to, we actually signed a waiver. Now I don't know how enforceable by law this is. That if you got COVID by going to this event, not our fault, you can't sue us. That is all of our futures.
Yeah, I
Every
think you're
event
right
you
there.
go to, they're going to make you sign something that says, if you get COVID from this, not our fault. We're not paying your medical bills. Not us. You don't
Yeah,
have to be here.
That's what
Yeah.
they did at some of the political rallies that
Mhm.
I've heard about. Is they made them sign a waiver of responsibility.
Yeah,
Right. Now,
we're
until
gonna
it
see
goes to
that at
court, we don't know
concerts.
how it'll hold up.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're gonna see that for every event. I don't think that's too
Mhm.
out of the question. But man, this has been a fantastic show. Lots of good content thanks to having two scientists up above here, just going toe to toe with each other. Not like they were fighting or anything, but agreeing with each other happily over the science of the whole thing. Kelly, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to hang out with us for a little bit and talk about COVID-19, where you're at. It's been really enlightening and awesome, and very very cool to have you as always, because you're just a wonderful guest. I miss doing D&D with you. Yeah, it's a tragedy that we just can't seem to make time for it right now. But we certainly do miss doing it. But yeah, so tell everybody where we can find you and what you do. So where we can find your work.
Me as an author, you can find me at K Colby Writes, like not horses, but on paper. So at K Colby Writes on Twitter. Also, K Colby Writes is on Facebook as well. So you can find me there as a writer. If you are a writer yourself and you're interested in Cursed Dragonship, we have submissions guidelines at curseddragonship.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Captain Wyvern. So it's CAPT, short captain, and then Wyvern, WYVERN. So
Awesome.
wherever you would like to follow, we'd love to see you.
And I can vouch for Kelly being an amazing writer because I have read Tarbin's True Air, which you can find on Amazon or wherever finer books are sold, and also the award-winning second place North Texas Book Festival Laundered, an anthology of monster messes, where the proceeds go to Toys for Tots as a charity. And we'll be having our next one coming out October, November. November 10th.
And there will be a launch. I expect y'all to be on it.
Yes,
so there'll be a launch
we will be there
on Twitch.
Sweet, that's Horizons, an anthology of epic journeys. That was fun to write for, and I'm sure come our charity drive into November, we will have a new anthology ready to tell you guys about how to submit to and be a part of. Because I mean, why stop now? We've already done one award-winning one. We should just keep this going. can't quit now. We're so far along. If you want to find more, if you want to help this show out in any way you can, reviewing is huge. Podcasts survive on reviews and stars, and if you find a place to write down, hey, these people are pretty cool, that would be huge for us, particularly while we're young. It's really good for small podcasts when they're first starting out. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at staring_goats. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/2dorks, where you can join the likes of Oddly Normal and Hammer Dwarf, Og, Adam of Geek Time, and our parents in supporting this show by tossing $1 a month. A little bit of entertainment. You get this, plus Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, plus streams, plus other stuff. It's awesome. You should be a part of it. And just, yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, watching us, being with us. And we will see you next time here on Staring at Goats. Good show. Good show.
Wow, another one in the can, baby.
Can I tell you what I've been drinking?
Yes,
It's Dragon
please.
Con mead. It's delicious.
Ooh,
Davo bought it for me. It's smooth and incredible.
I missed Dragon Con this year. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, we did too.
I missed seeing all you guys. I was real bummed that I had all these friends in the podcast track that we met last year. I was really looking to spend a little more time with them this year, and that's just a bummer. But
yeah.
But next year, Tater Tot will be older. Sam will be 6, which is way more manageable.
Big boy.
Yeah, he's way more manageable than 4. 6 and 4, there's a big difference there. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we'll have a good time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
0 and 1. There's